Next item, caucus process.
Yeah, this is the overview. Congratulations to all of you who, as commissioners, participated in the budget process. There was a piece of paper that was left up on the desk with results of all the different caucuses. We were able to select, we held the 5 caucuses, and I'll give you my anecdotal information. I mentioned earlier that there has been a difference between the amount of neighborhood groups that started in 2008 versus the amount of neighborhood groups that currently exist, and it's been a dramatic shift. The reason I'm mentioning that is because in certain of the districts there was a struggle to get voting delegates to show up. You know, in the heyday of 2008 or so, in the you know, there were certain council districts that had you know, 30 neighborhood groups. Even the ones that are like District 4 had, I think, 11 or so at one point, and sadly, you know, we're down to maybe 1 or 2, working with the council offices very diligently to make sure that we were able to get voting numbers from the existing neighborhood groups to come and vote on the folks that showed up. I reported the last time on the amount of applicants that showed up to apply for the various caucuses, and they ranged anywhere from 2 applicants to 3 applicants to the mammoth one that was this past Saturday, which was 18 applicants, which actually ran remarkably smoothly,
Very well.
considering going through all the drama that we ended up having to get to that particular caucus. The reality was that all of them ran very well. I want to say once again thank you to the commissioners that were able to attend, to either observe or to help, and in most cases all helped, and made it work, because if it was left up to poor Emilio and myself and the other volunteers, because we have volunteer moderators. We had 3 volunteer moderators for this process this year. Ken Podarczyk, who has been doing them since 2008, was able to do the ones on the weekends. Ken Kelly, who is has been the board president of the United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County, did the one for the District 4 Berryessa caucus, and Clarence Montelejos, who is the Human Services Commission chair for Human Services. I needed one for the District 2 caucus, and he was generous enough to donate his time and moderate that caucus, which actually had about 25 people attend. It was a very well-attended caucus. We had 3 candidates, 2 of which showed up, and those 2 received the votes and were elected. The neighborhood groups were well represented in terms of the small amounts that we were able to get to the various caucuses. In each of the cases, all of the folks, all of the seats that were empty were filled, and so that bodes well for the commission in August as we move forward to now get these folks approved. The last caucus, which is the one that occurred on Saturday, we actually had 18 original applicants, of which 3 withdrew. Well, actually, 2 withdrew their names before we got there. One person had a death in the family and was not able to attend, but still wanted to know whether or not she would be competitive. She did send in a 250-word statement, and I left her a message saying, you know, even though you're not going to be here, people can still vote for you. On the day of the caucus, on Saturday, we had two folks that left. One was a dad and his, I believe he had a 2-year-old, so he had to leave early. And so he wasn't around to either give any kind of speech and or be present for the voting. And then one person left who was there for most of the caucus, but it turned out, she turned out to be a county resident. And so she quietly withdrew, was very gracious about it, and said, I really don't live in San Jose. And District 6 has the Burbank area, which is a county pocket. And so it gets very confusing for people because they think they're in San Jose, but they're not. They vote. They don't have a city council person. They vote for a county supervisor. So it was pointed out to her in discussions during the actual caucus that that she actually didn't reside there, and so she was gracious enough to withdraw. So we ended up with actually 12 candidates that were left. And remarkably, I was expecting we'd go to 3 ballots. We actually went to 1 ballot because the 50+1 actually occurred on the first ballot for 2 candidates. They were able to get their votes right off the bat, and so we were able to very smoothly run that particular caucus with the enormous amount of folks. And each one got exactly what they were promised. They got their 2 minutes introduction. They got to answer all 4 questions. They got their minute closing, and then they got a fair vote. So it actually worked democracy in a very messy way, worked very smoothly. And I want to say that for the caucus process to be kind of a formal, informal process, it works for quite well. If we've had enough experience in doing this in the past, that for those of you that have either seen it or participated in it, it allows you and it allows the residents to have a voice that's unusual in the absolute directness of how you're selected. Because in most cases, in all cases, every other board and commission goes through an application process that the council members are the only one that see the applications, and they're the ones that make the selection. There's no resident involvement, there's no resident input. Even the planning commission, which has interviews out in the public, only the council members do the decision making. None of the public actually does anything. So in this case, the residents submit the names, and I've seen the due diligence done on the candidates. I saw no conflicts at all for anyone that's been selected. So I think we're good to go. At this point, what I'll be doing is submitting, because the council calendar is already full up to June 21st, I'll be submitting my memo with all the council candidates' names, commission candidates' names for the second meeting in August, and then the council will be considering that day. The commission meets the next day, so we can have a mass swearing in of all the commissioners the next day then. So that is the timeline for getting folks on board then.
So they will be able to be seated at the next meeting?
So, sorry,
They will be seated for the next meeting in August?
Yeah. If the commission should get the agenda on the August 8th meeting, I believe it is, August 8th or so, the commission meets on the 9th. So they'll vote on it, if nothing goes wrong, they'll vote on it the day on Tuesday. And then we've done this before, we've had a mass swearing in before. We can do that, we'll notify everybody to be here, and then we'll get them all sworn in before the meeting starts then. So we're on target. So
okay, thank you.
Anyway, congratulations, you guys did a great job.
Now, is that District 6 one with the how many candidates there? And it went very well and smoothly, and I'm quite happy with the candidates that were selected. They were all good candidates. I was impressed by all of them. And,
yeah, it was remarkable the quality of the candidates that emerged on all the caucuses. So it wasn't people that weren't involved in their communities. We've had that happen before in the past where somebody says, I think it's a good idea, somebody talked to me about filling a vacancy, and they just show up. In most of the cases, the candidates, because I have a chance to look at all the applications, the resumes, et cetera, the quality was extremely high caliber, which shows me two things. One, this is a commission to apply for. It's become a competitive commission in the sense that if people are looking to make an impact, this is a commission to go to. The second thing is that the applicants themselves are very sincere. When the caucuses have occurred, people, they really have to step up and explain why they want to join this commission. And, you know, you can, and it's an unusual process because you really have to make speeches and kind of sell yourself. And if people weren't sincere about what they were doing, that would show. And that's, if anything, the folks that have put their names forward have really, and have stepped forward and been selected, were very, very sincere about what they were doing. So I'm very glad for that, because the worst thing would be that you would get people that were selected that really, some people sometimes get elected commissions just to say, I like the title. But in this case, these folks seem to want to work. So anyway, there you go. That's my report on the commission.
And thank you. And I understand some of the at least one of the council members gave you some tips along the way, and I apologize for that. I'm glad you were able to stand up against all the pressure.
I cannot make any comments on that, but let's just say that in a case,
I appreciate your efforts, that's all.
The resiliency of the commission process was well accepted.
Okay, so thank you. I hope there's no more problems with that.